Welcome back to my channel. My name is LaShawn and this is Lash Uncut. Today I am coming to you all with another take, and today on my take, these are our 3 headlines. Number 1, conservative podcast host Matt Walsh went on the Dr. Phil show and posed a very simple question. What is a woman? Number 2, the Daily Signal reports nearly a third of Democrats support unvaccinated parents losing custody of their children. And finally, number 3, we are going to be talking about the voting rights bill that is currently being debated in the Senate. So let us get started. So for our first story, yes, Matt Walsh went on Dr. Phil's show and they had an episode basically where they discussed transgenderism, and it was something very interesting to witness.
That's a question I would like to throw out to other members of the panel, actually, because just like the 4-year-old can't answer what is a girl. Well, this is one of the problems with this left-wing gender ideology, is that no one who espouses it can even tell you what these words mean. It's like, what is a woman?
Well,
can you tell me what a woman is?
No, I can't. Because it's not for me to say. Womanhood looks different for everybody.
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt right here. He says womanhood looks different to everybody. That is a fair point. Everybody experiences femininity in a different way, but let's just keep going.
What do you define a woman as?
An adult human female.
And what does a female mean?
Well,
how
that's
do you define a female?
someone with female reproductive organs.
Okay.
Someone who's, here's the thing, when you're female, it goes right down to your bones, your DNA. So that's why if someone dies,
okay,
we could dig up their bones 100 years from now. We have no idea what they believed in their head, but we can tell what sex they were because it's ingrained in every fiber of their being.
Interesting. So I'm trying to understand. Your definition is that a woman is someone who is female, you said, right?
Correct, is a biological female.
So what happens if we have maybe someone who is female, identifies as a woman, right? Cisgender woman, right? As you just explained, maybe doesn't have the ability to reproduce. Maybe doesn't have those organs that you're talking about that are reproductive organs.
So this is something that I kind of hear often from the proponents of transgenderism when it comes to defining a woman, and basically saying that a woman is a person that is able to bring forth a child. Now, obviously, that is what a woman is, and later on, we're going to get more into details about that. They often come with this argument like, oh, but what if I am a woman by your definition, but I am unable to produce a child? Well, there's a definition for that. It is called infertility. That does not take away from the fact that you have the organs within your body that if they were working in the way they were intended to work, you would be able to produce a woman. So basically saying that a female who is unable to bring forth a child is somehow on the same playing field as a biological male because males can't produce children, that doesn't even make any sense at all.
I have answered the question. You stood up here and said trans women are women.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean. What is a woman?
Womanhood is something that, just as Ethan explained, I cannot define because I am not myself.
You used the word, so what did you mean when you said trans women are women if you don't know what it means?
Right. So here's the thing. So I do not define what a woman is because I do not identify as a woman. Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people who...
That describes what?
People who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own. Each woman, each man, each person is going to have a different relation with their own gender identity and define it differently. And so trans women are women too.
Okay.
And you want to hold on.
Trans
you want to reduce.
What you won't even tell me what the word means, though. So
you
that's
want to
the problem.
reduce women. You want to reduce men down to maybe just their genetics, our genitals, our chromosomes, right? That's what you're saying.
What you want to do is
that's what
you want to do is appropriate women. You want to appropriate womanhood, and turn it into basically a costume that could be worn.
Ooh, it definitely got a little spicy there at the end, but obviously I definitely agree with what Matt Walsh is saying, where he basically says that someone like, this individual that he was talking to is appropriating womanhood and I think the most obvious example of that is the fact that he has long hair, makeup, jewelry, clothing that is very similar to what a stereotypical woman would wear, but then has the audacity to have a beard on. And it is very disrespectful because it's just like you can sit there and say that you're a woman. You are somehow supposed to be treated exactly the same as me, but you have a beard. Like you have a beard. And let's go into the definition of what a woman is. Now, I went on the Google because obviously the Google is the best place to find definitions of simple words. Google defines a woman as an adult female human being. Kind of what Matt Walsh says. But then I was just like, but what's a female though? So it then defines a female as of or donating the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs, distinguished biologically by the production of gametes or ova, I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, which can be fertilized by male gametes. So Matt Walsh is right. A female is someone that is born with the reproductive systems of a female that is able to reproduce and so on and so forth. But I think that is the problem with this transgender ideology, is that it literally ignores basic truth and science. Now, it's one thing if you can say a transgender woman is a transgender woman. At least that addresses the fact that you are not biologically female. That's something I can wrap my head around. Someone being born male and saying that I want to present myself as a woman, right? That does not mean that I am a woman. I can present myself as an orange, but obviously I'm a human being and I'm not an orange, right? And we can move forward from there. But if you want to sit there and say transgender women are women, that's when you lose me, because there's no way that I went through all the physical changes, all the emotional struggles of becoming a woman, for you who have never experienced any of that to have the audacity to say that somehow you and I are on the same playing field. I'm sorry. That's where you lose me. Okay, moving on. So yes, I am going to move on to our next story, and I'm going to start by reading the article that I came across on the Daily Signal. The article reads, nearly a third of Democrats support unvaccinated losing custody of children. Democrats were more than twice as likely as other voters to favor harsh government restrictions being placed on unvaccinated people's lives, ranging from fines to loss of child custody, according to a recent poll conducted by Rasmussen Reports and the Heartland Institute. 48% of Democratic voters said the government should be able to fine or imprison those who publicly question the COVID-19 vaccine's efficacy, while only 27% of all voters supported the proposal, according to the poll results. Fines against those who refuse to take the vaccine were viewed favorably by 55% of Democratic voters and just 19% of Republicans, and 59% of Democrats favored a policy requiring unvaccinated people to stay inside their homes at all times except for emergencies, the poll found. 79% of Republicans opposed a house arrest policy for unvaccinated people. 45% of Democratic respondents favored the government forcing people into designated facilities until they get the vaccine, a measure opposed by 71% of all voters. A government program using digital devices to track the movements of unvaccinated people and ensure that they are quarantined or socially distancing was opposed by 2/3 of likely voters, but 47% of Democratic respondents supported the idea of such a program. 29% of Democratic voters said the government should take people's children from them if they refuse to get the COVID-19 vaccine, a measure viewed favorably by 70% of Republicans and 11% of unaffiliated voters. There's so much to say about this, and I think when I read this article, I was just like, what? Like, I knew we had different opinions on the vaccine and how it should be distributed, and you know, how much freedom we should give to people who don't want to take it, and laissez. Like, I knew we definitely had disagreements on the specifics, right? But never in a million years would I think that there are people living in free America that would support someone's child being taken from them because they don't want to take a vaccine. The question I think that emerges from this for me is, what could have caused people to come to this point? Like, what experience did someone have during these last 2 years that would have resulted in them feeling like tracking people digitally, fining them into oblivion, and going as so far as to take their children away is something that makes sense. Now, the only answer to that I have is definitely the propaganda that was pushed forth by the mainstream media. If you remember March of 2020, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was fear mongering left, right, and center, and that dragged out for literally 2 years and still continues to this day. Like, I know the Holocaust and World War II was kind of sort of overused by conservatives and people on the right, and it's just like, okay guys, we get it, but like, you have to think about what led up to it, right? Like, you really have to like realize that it wasn't a small amount of people that snitched on their neighbors, that like basically dehumanized a group of people in a society and pushed the situation to the point where 6 million people lost their life and was brutally murdered. It took the corporation of an entire society, an entire country, for the situation to get to the point that it did. And this is what scares me, because it's just like, when are we going to learn from our history? And interestingly enough, it was the same media propaganda that led to the whole situation. So the writing is in the wall. And I'm glad that the alarm is being sounded, because at least when we look back, because God forbid we get to that point, at least when we look back, we can say we were warned. Next story. Now, I'm not going to spend much time on this because honestly speaking, I just can't be bothered. So apparently our government officials are still wasting our time and decided to spend their Thursday evening debating a bill that they know that's not going to get passed. Now, here are some quick updates on the voting rights bill situation that's happening over there in Washington. Senate Democrats are pressing ahead on voting rights despite facing an uphill battle to pass the legislation in Congress. Yes, because Joe Manchin and Sinema already said that they're not going to vote for this. So basically, this is a waste of time and taxpayers' dollars. The Senate is on track to hold a vote this evening to attempt to break a GOP filibuster on the legislation. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that if Republicans blocked the bill, he would hold a vote to change Senate rules to allow for a talking filibuster. Since the proposal would change the current 60-vote threshold set by the filibuster and allow the Senate to move on a simple majority vote, moderate Democrats, Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, are expected to oppose it and scuttle the effort. So this is just not going to go. It's not going to go through. And then you then have to ask the question, so why? So why waste our time? Why waste their time? Why put on this show? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I honestly do not know. Maybe they just wanted to be shown that they're still trying, because again, Joe Biden's in the dumps. He's not doing well, and he's going to try every path that he can to try to make it seem as if he's doing something. And I think this is such an insult and like a spit in the face to America right now, and I've mentioned this 1,000 times before, because when you think about the problems that we're dealing with, like the actual problems that affect our life on a day-to-day basis, this is an insult, because it is a waste of our time and attention. Honestly speaking, it is a waste. Instead of them coming together, right, and I say them as in the Democrats, because they're in control right now, coming together and sitting down and saying, listen, we need to tackle inflation, we need to tackle this economic crisis, we need to do something about the supply chain issues, we need to talk about the southern border. There's so much we need to get done. Let's really sit down and get our hands dirty and look at new ways to do this. What are they going to do instead? Waste our time with this stupid voting rights situation. Ladies and gentlemen, your American government. That is all for today. If you enjoyed, first of all, thank you for taking the time out to check out my channel. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to subscribe, smash that like button, throw something in the comment section down below, and make sure to hit the notification bell so that when I upload again, you will be notified. Thank you for your time and your attention. Remember to be blessed and be a blessing.